Boker Tov. Continue with the Halachot of Tzitzit. So the pasuk itself makes reference to the fact that really Tzitzit are supposed to be a very visual mitzvah. The whole point of Tzitzit is uritem oto. You're supposed to look at the Tzitzit. But what is it that the Tzitzit are supposed to remind us of? What are we thinking of? What are the Tzitzit sort of bringing to mind when we look at them? So of course, in the days when they had the special techelet, the special blue dye, the Gemara tells us that the blue dye was a visual aid for a person to be able to remember the blue of the heavens, the shamayim, which in turn reminds a person of the kisei hakavod, the Kadosh Baruch Hu's throne. So the blue part of the tzitzit is a reminder constantly of the yirat shamayim that a person is capable of, that a person should remember the kisei hakavod. However, we don't have the blue dye nowadays, or at least not everybody is wearing the techelet. So, is there any other significance that a person can gain by looking at the tzitzit strings? So I wanted to start off your day with a little bit of numbers, a little bit of math, a little bit of gematria, a nice way to kickstart the morning. And there is significance to looking at the tzitzit on their own, even without the blue dye. The 10, there is a few times in the Torah where we look at the two front corners of the tzitzit. So when you add together the 5 knots on each corner, so you have 10, and the 8 strings on each corner, that's 16. So 10 and 16 is 26. That's the same gematria of the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shem Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kem. So the mere knots and strings on the front corner of the tzitzit itself reminds you of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On top of that, we have the total of the 10 knots on each corner, right? 5 on each corner of the two front ones, 5 on one corner, 5 on the other, together it's 10. That reminds you not just of the sky, but of the 10 sfirot. Al Pi Sod, the Shemayim has 10 different worlds, and they're all connected. By looking at the two front corners, that reminds you of the 10 sfirot. Additionally, even on one corner, you have the 5 knots and the 8 strings. Together, that is 13, and that's the gematria of Echad. Echad. So when you look at just even one corner, the 5 knots plus the 8 strings, numerical value 13, that's the same numerical value as the Shem of Echad. Echad, that reminds us of Shem Echad. And if we understand that the looking at the tzitzit can remind us of all these things, then we can understand something else which is very significant, especially about the tzitzit, which is, Sfarim bring down, Kitzur, Shla, Kadosh, Sefer, Shomer, Emonim, Kava Yashar. They all talk about there's a special connection between wearing talit tzitzit and also removing anger. Kitzur Shla brings down that when a person is wearing the talit, it's a special opportunity to pray that Kadosh Baruch Hu should save a person from anger and from jealousy. How does that work? Because when a person looks at the tzitzit and he's reminded of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, hopefully that is mivatel, hopefully that nullifies any anger a person should have, because it reminds us of Hashem, it puts us in our own spot. Who are we to have anger? So when a person does these things, he looks at the tzitzit, the two front corners, he remembers all the numerical values, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Echad, the 10 sfirot, it hopefully is a good opportunity, like the Sfarim say, to pray that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should help a person be removed from anger. As we wrap up this portion of speaking about tzitzit, I wanted to share with you a very, very interesting story. There was a great student of the Navarre Yeshiva, Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky. He passed away about 5-10 years ago. And he was exiled to Siberia. And while he was in Siberia, he has so many stories in general. He went through life, he was always learning, he was always looking, and every single episode he was involved with brought to him another lesson. So he said when he was in Siberia, there were other inmates and prisoners there. And every single morning, even as early as everybody had to wake up, there was one guy who woke up even earlier. And Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky was very curious, what is this person doing when he wakes up so early? So this person used to go, I don't know how he smuggled it in, it's sort of what they call a kasha namaisa, how it happened. But this particular prisoner had with him a secret package that he was able to keep away from the guards. And what was in the package? It was a bulky thing. He used to pull it out every single day. It was his army uniform. Apparently, before he had been exiled to Siberia, he was a very high-ranking officer in the army. And every single morning, before he would have to start his slavery in Siberia, he would put on his general's army uniform for a few moments and then quickly take it off and fold it and put it away. So Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky was so taken by this. He said, what was this person doing? Here he is. He's crushed under the boot of his officers, the communist regime. But he was trying to remind himself, I was something before. I'm a person. I was a high-ranking officer. I had a position of prominence and power. And in order not to forget who he was, every single day, he put on his army general uniform to remind himself that even though he's in this particular environment now, that doesn't define him. He's really something much greater than them. And the truth of the matter is, that's the whole concept of the tzitzit. Uritem oto. We remember at all times, put on our uniform, we wear it throughout the day. It reminds us who we are, regardless of the surroundings in which we find ourselves. The tzitzit are specifically meant to be a visual aid a man can take out at any time, remind himself of his servitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That we are avadim, but we are avadim to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and nobody else. רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיכך